Hello guys, and welcome back to another video about my e-bike with a Walmart motor and just take it off, the KT sine wave controller. Now I seem to have figured out a problem with my setup. I think I've discovered a blockage in the system, shall we say. And if you look carefully in here, you'll see what I'm talking about. These wires have completely melted. Now, what happened was I was actually trying to assess the temperature that was in the motor and see if I could make the temperature in the motor change on the display. So I was accelerating and braking and basically messing about, basically behaving like a hooligan. And suddenly it felt like somebody put the brakes on and the bike came to a shuddering halt. Oh dear. And yeah, this is what's happened. These wires melted and shorted out, and basically shorted out the motor, and the whole thing just came to a shuddering halt. Now thankfully I separated the wires and turned the motor back on. Everything was fine, was able to cycle home. No issue, but it looks like I have a problem and I'm going to have to resolve it. Now, much as I would love to be able to say that this was entirely the fault of Walmart for supplying a cheap nasty motor with a rubbish cable in it, you can actually use the Walmart cables here and they're fine. This was an extension that I actually made myself. So this and this is 2 bullet connectors, or 3 bullet connectors. They've just been taped up. So what I'm going to do is remove those bullet connectors. I was actually planning to put this cable in instead of this cable, which, as you can see, is significantly thicker. But it's not as simple as I thought, because I've just realized that the wires for the Hall effect sensors go down the same cable, same piece of wire. So I'm going to have to be a bit careful how I do this. But what I think I will do is to cut the wire about here somewhere, maybe here, and splice in the heavy 3-core, which I've got. I think it's 4mm 3-core. Splice that in there and bring it all the way up here. And I'm not sure how to sort out the Hall effect sensors. I'll figure that out as I go along, but the plan is to try and beef up these wires from all the way from the controller right down to close to the motor, so there's less of a blockage in the system. Hopefully the shorter wires will provide less resistance than this big long wire, because I do think that this wire, being so long and so thin, is causing a resistance and basically making the whole thing a little bit slower. So that's the plan. We're going to try and get that done, and or maybe try and bring you along in the process and show you how I achieve it, or don't, or cock it up, as the case may be. As you can see, somewhere along the line I stupidly thought it was a good idea to use very lightweight cable. Can't believe we used that. And bullet connectors. Well, I'm going to try and do the job right this time. Cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Oops. Right, that's them off. So, like I said, it would be nice to make the cable a little bit heavier going down to the motor. Now, I'm not going to be able to go right into the motor with this cable because it's way too heavy to go into that. And also I need to sort out the Hall effect sensors. Right, let's get a piece of cloth. So I need to do this very gingerly and carefully and make sure I do not touch those Hall effect sensor cables. Probably from about there would be about right, wouldn't it? What do you say? Yeah, it's about right. Give or take. So if it starts there, yeah, probably from about here. I'm just nipping at the insulation and trying to be as careful as possible not to touch any of the wires inside. There you go. That's not too bad. The reason I'm exposing so much is because I want to have a join for one of the cables here, another one here, another one here, and stagger them. And that way it'll not be a big bump. Right. So if I cut that, say, cut that there, and then cut the yellow about here. And then cut the blue about here. Yeah, that's it. And I don't know if this will work. I'm going to try and pull those cores out. Just one at a time. Seems to be coming. Not too fast. I don't want to burn the Hall effect sensor wires. There you go. There's the first one. Second one. Right. Okay, so that's those pulled out, and I'll probably just slide that back down again. I'm going to just tape that up later. So now I need to figure out which ones I want to put where. I'm going to put, it really doesn't matter which colour you put where. You have to figure it out when you get finished anyway. But blue will go to blue, we'll do that. But in the meantime, let's get the cable stripped back a bit further. This isn't going to be difficult to I'm hoping this isn't going to be too difficult to solder to. They're very, very solid, strong cables. Don't feel like copper. Yeah, I wonder is that aluminium? I'm not sure. Not sure about that at all. Anyway, if we're stuck, we'll crimp them. So I'll put the black to green. So I'll make the black one the longest. Sorry, the brown one, not the black one. This cable, if you're wondering where I got it from, it was originally from a data center power cord. Hence why it's 250 watt, 250 volt. I think it's something like 30 amp or more, maybe. Anyway. So what I want to do is to put that on there, push them together so they sort of interlock, and then twist it around like so, and then see if I can't just solder that like that. That's the cunning plan. Probably should have put some heat shrink on first. Get the heat shrink on. I just hope that cable solders alright. I'm not sure that it will, but we'll see. These are the original connections. Well, they've been soldered, so it should work. It should work. Let's try and see. Try again. Pretty heavy duty cable this, so it may be difficult to solder. Let's see how it works out. This is an 80 watt iron, I believe. I think it's 80 watts, something like that. I think he's having a hard job getting this heated up. Just keep it on there and see what happens. It's not flowing yet. Try going from underneath. Come on. I thought it was a good idea to use 4mm cable. just because it would provide such a strong path for the electricity. But I can't solder it, oh dear. Come on. I think it's just turning into a big blob underneath the soldering iron. It's not very good. Getting there, slowly. Way more heat in it than I want to, but we're getting there now. There we go. Right, yeah, it wasn't good, but I got there eventually. It's got the heat shrink, it's already shrunk. I had the heat on so long. Hopefully these other ones, when I strip the cable back, will be a bit better. I think these, in fact I might even go and get some flux and put it on them. I'll go and do that. Right, that's cooled down a bit. Not the best solder joint I've ever made, but I guess it's solid. It's not going to go anywhere. So tape, I'll just have to use tape and solder because, or sorry, tape, sticky tape, because the heat shrink has shrunk. Right. It's better than nothing, I suppose. Right, let's get the next one ready to go. So the next one is yellow. Try the same again. In theory, a joint like that is a good one. It's only a good one if you can solder it well. And let's put some flux on it. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. We'll see. Can't be any worse than the last one. Oh, that's much better. I should use the flux the first time. Look at that, straight in there. I think I'll revisit that last connection and flux it. That made a world of difference. There we go. I think that worked. Perfect. That's a much better joint. Oh well, you live and learn. Flux is the way to go. Like I said, unfortunately the heat shrink melted on the other one, or hardened, or shrunk, or whatever the other one. So we'll just have to do the best we can. That's a greasy with all that flux. The nice thing about staggering your connections, apart from it being less bulky, is it also makes it slightly safer, because there's a bit less likely that's not going to touch that and that can't touch that. So should they decide to burst through, or a sharp piece of wire poke through the insulation, it's much less likely to cause a problem. So now I just wrap it up. I think I just wrap the two of them together. I find when you're doing wrapping insulation tape, if you keep lots of tension on it, so you're actually stretching the tape as it's going round, it does a much better job than if you just wrap it around it. It's much more secure. There's a bit of a lump where I made a mess of the first one, but apart from that, it's not too bad. There you go. It's not pretty, but if it works, don't knock it. So now I have to staple those in there, clip them up, bring them both in, which is going to require a little bit more preparation, cutting and so on. So we'll make that a job for another day. That's us done for now. It's wine o'clock. Alright guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Alright guys, so I have this all tidied up, soldered together and taped up. So I'm going to, just tip it down a wee bit, going to try and get it cable tied up to the top here now. I saw a tip recently regarding cable ties and the bags that they come in, and somebody suggested, well, normally I would have cut the tip off, cut off a corner and then buckled to try and pull the cable tie out, and somebody said don't do that, make a hole there. Let's see how this works. And make a hole there. You want a cable tie, you pull it out. None of them will fall out, whether they're in your tool bag or toolbox. What a brilliant tip. Pull out one when you want it, put them back in if you don't. Why didn't I think of that? I'm just going to use lightweight cable ties and lots of them. Previously I had used P-clips to hold this small cable here, but I don't think I have any P-clips that size, so I'll just cable tie everything. I think I need a bigger hole. might have to trim a bit more out of this. Let's see. Let's see. Not bad. Right about there. So now we need to put ring hooks on this. Right. Blue to blue. Brown to green. And yellow to yellow. Sort of. Right. This will either work or it'll cog and just not spin. First time lucky. I have to go out and buy a lottery ticket. Good. That should do the job. Put the lid back on and we should be golden. Right, so that's that bit done. Now, trim all these. Try and get these in. Right. I think that should do it. I think it's time for a test ride.